Hey, sales girls, Macy McNeely here, and I just had the most insane sales girl experience that will remain a core memory in my mind for the rest of my life, and I want to share it with you. I did something called a repitch, which is basically selling someone else's offer for them. And we have something called the Sales Girl Inner Circle. It's our higher touch program. And that's one of the things that comes with being in our inner circle is that I or Kat, my partner, can come on stage, your stage, or in your room virtually or not, and sell for you. And I did this for a client of mine on her stage. She had an in person room with 300 people in it, plus people online. And I sold her offer for her and helped her have I think we're at $134,000 day. Amazing, right? But this is not the core memory. This kind of leads into the core memory that I will just like, I'll never forget how powerful this moment was. We were doing the panel after the repitch. So I did my repitch, and then all the speakers came to answer questions from the messages that they heard throughout the day at the conference. And each speaker had their moment where they could answer a question. And so the first person, they said, "Hey, do you have any questions for this person?" And there was a couple of hands that came up. Then the next person talked about YouTube. A couple of hands came up. The next person talked about influencer marketing. A couple hands came up. And then it came to my client who was there to answer questions about the offer that was just presented. And I know we had had some conversations about her being really nervous that no one would have any questions, that no one would be interested in her offer, that it would be really awkward when no one even really cared or wanted to buy. Those were all the thoughts that were going on in her head. And I reassured her and I said, "I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, there will be questions about your offer." And when she opened the floor for those questions, I will never forget what felt like a third of the room, hands shot in the air. The reason this was such a core memory is because all of those people were desperate for someone to be direct with them about the offer itself. The biggest thing that I see in coaching and training women in sales skills is that they are simply not direct enough. And I think potentially there's some underlying kind of thought that being a woman means you can't be direct when selling your offer, or maybe you can just assume that you girls are just reading each other's minds and you just know what you mean and they know why you're here and they know that the point is for you to sell their offer and they know what they get out of your offer and they know if it's a good fit for them. They should know, right? You can never, ever, ever, ever assume that someone knows that your offer is a good fit for them. And when I saw all those hands go up, all I could think about was how so many of you sell on Instagram, sell on social media, sell in email. And there are people in your room, so to speak, that mentally have their hands up in the back of their mind, having a question if your offer is a fit for them. And a lot of you are not being very direct, and it's causing all these people to sit in the audience on the sidelines, waiting for you to say the right thing to make them jump in the game. Can you even just imagine how many lives are sitting on the table that could be changed by your offer and your service if you would just be direct in selling it? Selling your offer. And this is what a sales girl does. This is who she is she wakes up and thinks about the people who metaphorically have their hands up with a question about your offer and if it's a good fit for them. Now, a lot of them aren't directly asking you these questions. Some are, which is amazing, but there are a lot of people who are just kind of wondering and maybe they don't have the guts or the courage to ask you. Maybe they're hoping that you'll post about it later. Maybe they'll think, "Oh, I'll go look at her website later. I'll try to remember to try to find the answer that I'm looking for." You could make it so much easier for them to know if your offer is a good fit. Now, when I talk about being direct, I find that a lot of people are really worried about the people in the audience who didn't raise their hand, right? They're like, what if I lose them? What if they get annoyed? What if stop following me? And that might be the case. I'm not really sure. But what I can tell you is that even if someone sitting in that room did not raise their hand to directly ask a question, there is a very high likelihood that they still had the question that the person beside them that did raise their hand is going to ask. One of my favorite ways to sell is through something called an info call. And I know that sounds kind of boring, but I think it's actually a good thing because when someone is coming to hear more information about your offer, they are a super, super, super hot lead because they are saying, I am interested. I want to know if this is a good fit. And this client of mine, she actually ended up having an info call 2 days after the event. And I think out of 300 plus, 10 people ended up showing up to the call, but that ended up being a $30,000 call. Those 10 people were super, super hot and wanted directness about the offer and if it was a good fit. So, I want to give you 3 ways that you can be direct as a woman that feels really good, that feels really soft and encouraging and nurturing in a way that you can really confidently be direct and know that you're coming off in the way that you want to come off in a very compassionate way. And you are moving the needle in terms of helping people make a decision. All right. Are you ready? Let's do this. Number one is one of the best questions that I could ever give you. Like, this is the most sales girl secret hack of all time. And it's just a 4-word question. Are you ready? Why do you ask? Why do you ask? Anytime someone asks you any question, whether it's about your offer or not, I want you to follow up and get in this practice and get in this habit of asking, "Hey, that's a great question. Can you tell me why you ask?" This helps you be insanely direct and specific about your offer, and it's going to save you so much time. So, let me give you an example. Let's say someone asks a question about your group calls and they say, "Can you tell me a little bit more about the good group calls?" What most people do is they will just answer. They'll say, "Well, you come on the call and we start with giving some wins, and then you might have a question and you can get your question answered. And it's going to be like an amazing time when you join and get on these group calls." Is that helpful? Possibly. But even better is to be really direct and say, "I would love to answer that question, but before I do, can you tell me why you ask?" We just want to go a little bit deeper, another layer of why they're asking this question. And they might say something like, "Well, every time I join a mastermind, I get in these group calls, it feels like everyone is just complaining all the time. Feels like everyone is talking about how terrible the market is and how terrible this business is, and I just don't want to be drugged down with everybody else." Hmm, that's really helpful information, yes? Yes, it is. So, a great way to be direct is to answer that specific question, right? The first question was, "What are the group calls like?" And we got a little bit more clear. She wants to know, is it a group of people complaining? Okay, let's answer the actual question that she has. So then you could answer something like, "Hey, I am so glad you asked that question. It is so important to be in the right room with the right energy and the right people. These are coaching calls, which means people come with what they're working on and they are coached in what they are working on. This way, you can know that you are going to be in the room with people moving forward and not thinking about what's going wrong." Do you see how directly that question was answered? And we were able to specifically speak to her and say, "This is for you. This offer is made for you. You are going to get the payoff of the group calls when you join." This also is going to save you so much time, by the way. When you're not direct, you end up talking in like a word salad that doesn't make sense because you're talking in circles and not even answering their actual question, which just leaves them metaphorically still with their hand up. Okay, second way that you can be direct is to get so specific on what they're actually asking. I know that it feels like the same as number 1, but it's slightly different, okay? So let me give you an example. I'll give you an example from this event. This offer that she presented, it is a beautiful offer with lots of different modules and lots of different options and lots of different support options. And one of the questions was, "Can you tell me more about what's in the offer? Can you tell me more? Can you explain again what is in the offer?" That was the question. Now, you could say, "Why do you ask?" Which is a great question to follow up with. But what I like even more is to be direct about what specifically she wants to know. So think about it. If someone is in a room, they've already heard the offer. They likely have already been being warmed up over a period of time, especially to get into a room in person with you, or whether it's a webinar or a Zoom call. They know what you offer. They know what's up. There's something specific that they're asking. So I love to ask a follow-up question, which my sales girl, my client definitely did a beautiful job of this. She said, "Hey, I would love to answer that question. I'm curious, is there something specific you want to know more about of the offer? Is there something specific you're looking for?" And immediately she had an answer. She said, "Yes, one of the hardest things that I have a hard time doing is collecting data. It's being able to know what data to collect and to know specifically what the data says so that I can make high quality decisions." Guess what? That is something that was in her offer, and she was able to directly and specifically speak to that. What most people do is say, well, module one, you learn this. Module two, you learn this, but you just repeat what they've already heard. When really that question is a little bit of a smokescreen, of a mask of an underlying problem or an underlying loop that has not been closed yet. So she was able to answer that beautifully and say, I'm so glad that you asked that question. There is a specific data portion of this program. What's amazing about business is really at the end of the day, it's just math. And when you know the math and the numbers to collect and the formula to put the numbers into, you can make high quality, quick corrective decisions to make sure that your business moves forward. Beautiful, direct. And I'm sure you can see that how, even though that one person had one specific question, when you answer specifically, it's kind of like casting a net to the rest of the audience that maybe they had that question, maybe not, but even if it was lingering in their brain, the loop was closed for them as well. All right, I have the third way that you can be direct as a woman in selling, and that is to get agreement. Get agreement throughout the process of communicating with them. So, one thing that I notice a lot of women will do is they talk in that word salad, and it makes sense because when you're really, really passionate, you have a lot of things to say, right? You have a hard time harnessing it, and passionate people, like, they just kind of overtalk sometimes, okay? It's not a problem. It's normal. This is why sales skills are so important, so you can learn to rein in your brain, rein in your passion, and recommit to patience. And a great way to do that is to get agreement to make sure you are on the right track. So, a great example of this is to share the specific direct answer and then look at them and ask, does that answer your question? That's what you want, right? You are looking to make high quality, quick decisions with your data. Is that correct? Even if it seems obvious, I want you to still get agreement. What ends up happening is these passionate people, they're like leading the pack, right? They're walking really fast along the trail, heading up to the mountain, up the summit to this new life so that their potential prospects can see this new view after they buy the offer. But they're walking so fast, they look behind them and they lost their prospect a long time ago because they didn't get agreement to make sure they were on the same path. So I want to give you another example of how I've personally experienced this. Um, I've sold offers for lots of people, and I've also experienced how people will tell me they want one thing, but it's actually something totally different. So let's say hypothetically, you sell a like a dietitian type offer and help people lose weight. And someone tells you, a prospect, they tell you, man, I just really wish more than anything in this world that I would have enough energy to put the kids down and be able to like have an adult conversation with my husband. But I'm just so exhausted. And I know that if I cleaned up my diet, I think I would have more energy. So you might kind of regurgitate that and say, when you are able to fuel your body well, you'll have energy long after you put the kids to bed so that you can reconnect with your husband. And then something that you might say is, that's what you want, right? You ultimately want to be able to have the energy to reconnect with your husband. They might look at you and might say, yes, but when I really think about it, I am spending time with my husband at night, but we're just snacking. Like we sit on this sofa, we watch TV, and we mindlessly snack. Like if I could connect with him and resist the urge to snack late at night, I think that would be like really ideal. Okay, perfect. That agreement was a version of you looking behind you and saying, "Hey, are you with me?" And what they just said was like, "Hey, no, I'm not quite with you right now." So you stop, you turn to them, and you make sure you're on the same page so that you can keep going and be direct. See, this is a beautiful way of selling as a woman specifically because you get to tap into that feminine energy of being nurturing, of being loving, of being warm, and also being direct and speaking so specifically about your specific payoff, how it can help you have the life that you ultimately want. The only thing that's in the way is you and mastering or this program or this offer through to completion. Your dream life is on the other side of it. Okay, so how do you be directed as a woman in selling? There's three ways. Well, first, the ultimate way is to get clarity, and there's three ways to do that. You can ask, why do you ask? You can get clarity on specifically what are you asking? In that broad question. And lastly, you can get agreement to make sure you're headed on the same path up the mountain to the ultimate payoff. If this was helpful, please, please, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. There is lots more content coming, teaching you how to become the sales girl, that beautiful identity of being someone that someone wants to buy from, of being the leader and being someone that people look up to as what's possible for them. And I am so excited to continue on this journey with you on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.